A very good morning, welcome back to the channel Horse Racing fans. I'm going to be back with just the two selections for today's racing. Not the best weekend of racing, but York is just around the corner, so I'm sure we can hold on until then. I'm trying to get back on the horse in terms of selections over the next couple of weeks. We had a decent day yesterday, two tips, one of them won at 5-2, so that put us in profit. And the day before we had a horse that I tipped up at 110-1, went off 9-1, finished one place out of the regulation places. I managed to get on at 50-1 with the extra places, but I've never been so disappointed to have a 50-1 place horse, because I was just a neck off 110-1 place, which would have been the best bet I've had in a while. But away from that, we are in some pretty decent form, to be perfectly honest. Hopefully we can keep it going just with the two selections today. And we start off in a trappy little affair, which is the 130 at Doncaster. 3 runners over the mile on nursery turf, a 2-year-old on the round course. And I think the favourite is 8-11, is expected to go and get the job done, but I think is opposable at 8-11. It's the Mark Johnson trained Hope You Can Run. Danny Muscat takes the ride. He's been doing pretty well in the racing league. He'll be hoping to keep his form up, but I do have question marks over this horse. Has a rating of 81, and this son of Lope de Vega might just not be improving as much as some of the others in the race. Ran very well on debut at course, over 1 furlong less, 7 furlongs. That was on good to firm ground, just touched off by Modern Dancer. Now that horse does have scope for improvement. Was beaten at Yarmouth since, but I still think might be a decent horse in time. And yeah, the best form was on debut. Has kind of gone amiss slightly. Didn't run too well at Newmarket, albeit it was in a stronger race. Was more like it back over that previous course and distance, 7 furlongs, good to firm at Doncaster. Shapes as if the step up in trip would suit. Definitely does on pedigree. There's a horses in the pedigree that I do like running over a mile, maybe even further in time, probably 1.25 miles, maybe 1.5 miles as a 3-year-old. But a mark of 80-81 might be a little bit steep, and I'm going to go with the bottom rated horse in the race, Transfer Affection, who's stepping up in trip today. But that recent run at Newmarket was in a pretty strong race. I think there was some big trainers in there at Newmarket. If you look, some of the training, Hannon, Beckett, Dascombe, Ed Dunlop, Hugo Palmer, Mark Johnson, there's some big trainers in there. That was quite a competitive little race. It was a 0-80, so the top rated horse in this is better than anything that horse faced at Newmarket, but I think that was a strong race. Did pretty well to finish 4th. Might not have been on the best side of the track, as well as being dropped a pound from that. Kieran Follen keeps the ride, and this horse is stepping up 2 furlongs in trip today, which, if this horse sees out the trip, might suit. And I think with just the 3 runners in the race, it might be a little bit of a dawdle. I think Kieran Follen will be treating this like a piece of work. You can expect Hope You Can Run to bang out in front. I don't think he'd want to do too much. He might shoot himself in the foot if he goes off too fast. So I'm hoping maybe a little bit of a trappy pace, and Transfer Affection can quicken and go for Kieran Follen. So that's going to be my first bet of the day at 11-4. I think that's a decent price, to be honest. I expect this horse maybe to get a little bit shorter, close to the off. Personally, I priced this horse up as maybe a 5-2, 9-4 shot, so there might just be a little bit of value in there. The next tip and final tip is a bit of an outsider, to be perfectly honest. Runs in the William Hill Great St Wilfrid handicap at Ripon. Now this, in years gone by, has been an absolute cavalry charge over the 6 furlongs. There's been upwards of 20 runners in the race. There's been a recent non-runner hyper focus, which means we're down to 14 runners in the race. And in years gone by, the draw is pivotal here. I think they're going to come straight up the centre of the track here. I don't think it's worth them splitting if there's only 14 in the race, which means Embor is perfectly drawn in the middle in stall 5, near enough the middle, I should say. Now this horse ran in this race last year, finished 6th, carried 8 stone 7 and a mark of 87 that day. Came into the race in not some very good form. To be fair, the form figures heading into that race led 7-0 and 4th. JP Sullivan took the ride that day, and the horse was on the right side of the track, but maybe got a little bit unlucky in running. Finished 6th that day, probably flattered because, as I said, the horse was on the right side. Finished about 5th out of about 10 or 11 runners in that side of the track, so it might have been a little bit exaggerated how well this horse ran, but it comes into this off a mark of 81 and actually out of the handicap, so it is a very long shot at 22-1. But I think Safi Osborne taking off a couple of pounds, add to that the horse is carrying 8 stone 2 to begin with. This horse is going to think there's not a jockey on board, it'll be running freely, and I think it's just going to have a perfect Safi Osborne, like just stalking the leaders, waiting as late as possible, and hopefully running into a place at 22-1. Even though there's not many runners, I think there'll be quite a strong pace today. I think just another bottle from stall 10 that might go forward. Quite a few others will be prominent as well, Misty Glow as well possibly. So I think there's going to be a strong pace. Safi Osborne can just do what she does best. Jamie Spencer-esque, a nice quiet ride, hopefully finish late and fast. And that latest run at Goodwood was not bad at all. Was sent off 18-1, wasn't expected to do much, but finished just a couple of lengths behind Lord Rutherford, Dusky Lord, Knights on Earth. They're all progressive horses at the end of the day. That was a strong race, only a class 2, £35,000 that was. This, of course, there's more prize money up for grabs, but it's not too much of a stronger race, to be perfectly honest. I think the race will be run to suit. 4 of the horses, 6 wins have come on good to firm ground, so fast ground, strong pace, patient ride. I think there's a lot of factors as to why this horse can run well. As I said, a big price of 22-1. Now do make sure, I think just looking on my phone now, Paddy Power and Bet365, they're the ones you want to be with. 5 places up for grabs and 22-1 available. William Hillar doing 6 places and 18-1, which isn't bad at all as well. So do make sure to look on for the best price, bookmakers, etc. and places. But that's me over and done with today. I'm going to test out something tomorrow with Across the Sports double, linking a bit of football and horse racing together. If you are interested in that, let me know. Make sure you subscribe so you can see that video coming out for tomorrow. Make sure to have a very good weekend. Hopefully back a few winners, and I'll see you again soon.